Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Nurse Shark Academy with nursing news you can use and Baxter Professional Services. I'm Tina Baxter, your host. Nursing news you can use at 5 Nursing Business and News. And we'd like to get started with our affirmations for today, which is April the 5th, 2023. Love it, love it, love it. So excited to be here. So, our first affirmation: you owe yourself the love that you freely give to other people. You owe yourself the love that you freely give to other people. Life is tough, but so are you. Life is tough, but so are you. Today is another chance to get better. Today is another chance to get better. So those are our affirmations for today, coming from our affirmation calendar, inspirational daily calendar. You see right here. And let's go ahead and get started into the show. Let's get to our What I Am Reading segment. So I am currently right now reading a book. I know it's hard for you to see with the virtual background here. It's called The Finished Life by Pedro Adao. Wonderful book, and it's interesting that I'm reading this particular book around Holy Week, because this is about the life of Jesus, and the finished life. He finished his life and the example that Jesus left for us. So in the chapter that he talks about the power of purpose, these are some of the examples that he had. He said, the pursuit of purpose provides a much needed focused required to finish. Without identification of purpose, there is no target to focus on. Without a target, it's not possible to measure how far away or how close you are to the bullseye. Without the concept of purpose, there is no method to measure the success of your life. He goes on to say, the focused pursuit of your purpose allows you to know what to say yes to, and just as important, what people and opportunities to say no to. Every time you say yes to something, you're simultaneously saying no to something else. He goes on, commitment to a specific goal and or purpose offers protection from the impulses and distractions that life seems to regularly confront us with. So, for example, and it's interesting because in my blog post today, I talked about those positive and negative influences, those things that motivate us, and how sometimes those things that motivate us, the influences may have had a negative effect. And I talked about the whole perfectionism and procrastination that can come on because we get stuck in paralyzing fear from doing what we're going to do. And in this chapter, he's kind of talking about the same thing, where things can come in and distract us to what our true purpose would be. He says, fulfilling your purpose and living the finished life will require radical focus. As you advance into your purpose, the path becomes narrower, and in certain seasons of your life, it can become uncomfortably narrow. He says, staying committed to your straight path of purpose will often require you to overcome challenges that will not be easy, but well worth it. I love this. I love this. He says, often the biggest challenges in moving forward in pursuit of achieving new goals in alignment with your purpose are the pains from past failures, the unmet goals, and failed attempts of the past. He says to discover our purpose and finish the works given to you by God. And that's what we're here for. Regardless of past disappointments and failures, pursuit of your purpose will cause all past experiences to be turned around and used for your good. And what does he mean by that? And what is meant by that? Because in the reflection that I have in the blog post, I told a story about a fellow student that I named Ben. That was not his real name, but Ben from school. And Ben was the student that was always in trouble. And so he was labeled as the bad kid in school. And I realized that a lot of my people pleasing tendencies came from the very vivid memory of we were sympathetic and we liked Ben up until the teachers labeled him as bad, and therefore we couldn't associate with him lest we would seem bad. And so I, became teacher's pet. And so I talked about that in the blog. So check out the blog post. I did post it on our Nurse Shark Academy page and our Back to Professional Services page. You can check those out. And also you can go get it from the Nurse Shark Academy website or my LinkedIn page. But I saw that tendency to overachieve. Part of that came from that negative influence that I didn't want to be Ben. And I didn't want to get in trouble, and I didn't want to be labeled as the bad kid. And I realized that that has carried over into my adult behavior, where I stayed in a job too long because I didn't want to be seen as a quitter. I allowed people to pile things on me to the point of exhaustion. And when I left that position, finally, they hired 3 people to do my job. So these are things that we can learn as nurses about ourselves. And once we start to discover these cells and heal these areas, then it is helpful for us to establish those healthy boundaries that we need. So that's, you can read the blog post. I'm not going to go over the entire blog post because that's why I wrote it. All right, but I just wanted to share that. And so that's what I'm reading. And again, this is about the finished life of Jesus and how we apply that to ourselves. And what better time to read that than during this time of year. So that's The Finished Life by Pedro Adao. If you would like to get the book, let me know. I can tell you how to get the book. It is available on Amazon, or you can go to the website and get it there. But it's an excellent read, and I encourage you to get it. All right, so moving on. And no, I don't have any endorsements from Pedro. So there you go. So moving on, let's get on to our news. So our first story is a bit of good news for the nursing home industry. I think this is great. This came from McKnight's Long-Term Care News, and the CMS has proposed a 3.7% nursing home pay boost. But there are no details, however, on the staffing minimum. But at least we know that they're getting a little bit of a pay boost, which I think is helpful because they need to do something to help with the rising costs of providing the care. So it says the Centers for Medicaid and Medicaid Services Tuesday proposed a 3.7% pay hike for nursing homes, but declined to issue a staffing minimum as part of its annual payment rule proposal. The agency says it remains committed to doing so later. The agency had said it would propose a minimum staffing mandate as part of its skilled nursing facility prospective payment system for fiscal year 2024 and a rulemaking calendar published in Federal Register. CMS continues to review the feedback and evidence from both the comments solicitation and mixed method study, all of which will be used to inform proposals for minimum direct care staffing requirements in nursing homes in the rulemaking this spring, the agency said Tuesday. The proposed rule includes a net increase of 3.7% or approximately $1.2 billion in Medicare Part A payments to SNFs in fiscal year 2024. The estimate includes a $2 billion increase resulting from a 6.1% net market basket update to the payment rates, which is based on the 2.7% SNF market basket increase plus 3.6 market basket forecast era adjustment. So basically, they're getting more money, y'all. I think that's great. I know that there should be something about the staffing ratios, because I think currently the staffing ratios aren't necessarily taking into account the acuity of the residents, because it's not like it was years ago. Years ago, you got a sweet little grandma and grandpa in the nursing home, and they were fairly healthy and pretty much did for themselves and tended for themselves and very rarely needed skilled care. Well, now we're getting more acute patients that 20 years ago would have remained in the hospital, and we're getting them in the nursing home. And I think that the way we staff needs to change to reflect those changes in the industry. All right, so let's move on to our next story. This one came in. Let's talk about this really quick because we're talking about nursing homes. And we've talked about on the show previously the difference between nursing homes that are funded by the public or are for profit or nonprofit. So this happens to be in Massachusetts, and this is a story that I want to bring out because it's happening all over the country. It's not just Massachusetts, but it's other places. But this is a great start to talk. And so there's nursing homes that are closing in Massachusetts, and there's a lot of worrying from the patients about where they're going to go. So, according to the story, hundreds of elderly residents and people with disabilities from 4 nursing homes in Western Massachusetts are quickly being displaced as the company that owns them appears to be accelerating the pace in which centers stand to close down. Sarah Villanova, who is blind and is missing a leg, had been living in the Willimanset Center East Nursing Home in Chicopee for about a year and a half when staffers told her in February that she would be transferred the next day to another nursing home 45 minutes away. Now, I have to say that I have a friend whose father is waiting on placement in a nursing home in another state, and according to her, they can't find any beds for him. And now he's in the hospital, and the hospital wants her to take him home to care for him. But she cannot physically or emotionally take care of her father right now. And it's put her in a big bind because as a nurse, they're threatening to report her to the board if she doesn't take her dad home. Because you're a nurse, you should be able to handle it. And you know, but she's trying to place him in the nursing home because of his care needs. She still has to work, and he has dementia and needs 24/7 supervision and doesn't have the money to pay for someone to do that for her. So that's a lot of things that are happening. So I'm bringing these stories up. So these are real people that are experiencing these things. This is not just something to report on. So moving on with the story, it says Villanova, a 48-year-old woman who is Puerto Rican, stood to be transferred to the same nursing home where she recalled having had, quote, a bad experience, making the news even more distressing. She says, I started panicking and screaming. I had a panic attack, totally blind. I was bumping into everything with the wheelchair. Willimanset Center East was the first of the 4 nursing homes to shut down on March 17th, even though the plan approved by the state's public health department called for closure of the facility on or about June the 6th. The other 3 homes still in the process of closing down are Chapin Center in Springfield, Governor Center in Westfield, and Williamset Center West in Chicopee. All 4 homes are owned by Northeast Health Group, a Florida-based company. Villanova got the news that she would be displaced shortly after Northeast Health Group informed state public health officials on February 6th of their intent to close down the facilities. The company blamed the closures on post-COVID state regulations approved on April 2021, requiring long-term care homes to not have more than 2 beds in each room starting May 2022. Well, okay, first of all, let me just say this. I don't know about you. I can understand having a roommate. We do that in assisted living for people that can't afford to live on their own. They may be able to share a room with someone, or maybe they want companionship, or maybe it's a husband and wife. But I think I've seen these nursing home rooms, and having more than 2 people in a room, that's crazy. And what does it do with your quality of life? So I understand what their argument is, and maybe they weren't set up to accommodate that. But I just, yeah, we're not living in a frat house. We're not living in a youth hostel. We are trying, this is their end of life, and they deserve to have some privacy and some dignity. Anyway, that's just my aside. So they said the regulations were the result of a public outcry over a COVID outbreak that killed 84 people at Holyoke Soldiers Home, a state-run facility for veterans. The outbreak resulted in criminal charges, which were later dismissed, and a $57 million settlement with the state, according to Reuters. Massachusetts Department of Public Health conducted a public hearing to discuss the closures of Williamset Center East and West on March 1st, and another one on March 2nd to discuss the closures of Chapin Center and Governor Center. During this period, advocates for elderly and disabled nursing home residents raised concerns over possible violations taking place during the closing process, citing the speed of the facility's closures. Stavros Center for Independent Living, a social services organization helping people with disabilities, filed a complaint with the Massachusetts Office of the Attorney General on March the 8th. So this is an ongoing investigation. There's more to this story. Please take a look at the story. Again, coming out of Massachusetts with NBCnews.com. You can certainly follow this story here. But as we've seen, and we've talked about the other places in the country, Wisconsin being one of them, I believe, that had nursing homes being closed down. So this is a wave that we're seeing over the country as more regulations come out, um, presumably for the good of the patients and the residents. But some facilities are teetering on the edge of bankruptcy as it is. So there's a lot of questions that go on with this. Okay. So let's go on to more nursing home news before we move on to some other things. So this is a story coming out of Mississippi. And again, this is from McKnight's Long-Term Care News, and it says Mississippi nursing home wins whistleblower case and now attorney's fees in sharp rebuke. I bring some of these up because I want us, particularly those of you that are in the legal nurse consulting side, to understand some of the legal things that are happening out there. So I like to share that. And so this is where you want to make sure as an LNC, you prompt the attorney that you're working with to check on some things. And I had not thought about this before. So I thought this was interesting. It says a lawyer who acknowledged to the court that he did not check a public database to determine the status of a nursing director's license must pay attorney's fees after losing a whistleblower case a federal judge has ruled. Mississippi attorney Cameron Gill, sorry if I mispronounced your name, sir, originally filed a whistleblower lawsuit against GGN's NSC South Haven LLC, also known as Golden Living Center, in April 2019, seeking more than $30 million in damages. The allegations centered on the alleged lack of a multi-state nursing license by the facility's former director of nursing, Lionel Trofort, who worked at the facility from April 23rd, 2013 to March 4, 2014. Jill alleged that Golden Living, a 140-bed nursing home in South Haven, Mississippi, near the Tennessee border, filed approximately 1,393 Medicare and Medicaid claims during that period that was fraudulently submitted. Under the False Claim Act, the civil penalty for each alleged violation is between $5,000 and $10,000. Court documents show that Trofort worked as a travel nurse beginning in 2010 in Arizona, Arkansas, and Mississippi while holding a multi-state nursing license issued by Virginia, which court records indicate she considered her place of residence. Virginia, though, revoked Trofort's license on February 28, 2013, but reinstated it on March 20, 2013 after submitting a declaration to the state's nursing board declaring Virginia as her permanent residence. Documents from the case adjudicated in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Mississippi show that she began working in Golden Living on April the 23rd, 2013, and the facility confirmed on April 24, 2013, that she held a valid multi-state nursing license. Joel, while pursuing an unrelated wrongful death case, discovered notice of the revocation of Trofort's license. However, U.S. District Judge Neil D. Biggers Jr. wrote in his ruling awarding fees to Golden Living that Joel filed his whistleblower suit against Golden Living without checking whether Trofort's license had been reinstated. This court finds that because of the relator's allegation was, quote, bereft of any objective factual support, the action clearly had no chance of success, and therefore the claim is frivolous under the False Claim Act fee shifting provision. Biggers' original ruling in favor of Golden Living was issued in March of 22. Gill appealed the ruling to the U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which upheld the decision in December 2022. The fight then moved back to the Mississippi court over attorney's fees. Neither Golden Living nor Gill responded to the comment on Friday to McKnight's Long-Term Care News. So this is why I brought that up. That was a very interesting case. And perhaps I don't know if he did or didn't. I'm not saying that he did, or did not, but maybe a legal nurse consultant could have helped in that case. Just saying. All right, let's move on. To New York. It seems like New York has been in the news a lot when it comes to long term care. I'm just talking about long term care right now. So it says New York's nursing home ombudsman program is failing, according to data. This is published in New York. So let's go here to check it out. This is from the timesunion.com. With state budget negotiations extended at least an extra week, advocates are hopeful that 230 billion spending plan might include money to revive the state's troubled ombudsman program for long-term care facilities. Federal law requires all states to have a long-term care ombudsman to make routine visits at nursing homes and other residential centers. But New York's system is unique in that it relies largely on a network of unpaid volunteers to check up on 160,000 people who reside at New York's 1,400 long-term care facilities. Okay, I wonder why that's not a paid position. That's volunteer. I had no idea. Hmm. It says the pandemic brought a surge of abuse and neglect complaints across the nursing home sector, and it dealt a blow to the program's volunteer workforce, with the program never being able to fully recover, according to Claudette Royal, New York's statewide long-term care ombudsman. The number of volunteers has declined over 70% since 2016, and the number of service hours provided by these volunteers has declined over 60%. Yet the complaint numbers have increased by over 400%, according to Royal. The long underfunded program, housed administratively in the Office for Aging, provides advocacy services to residents of long-term care centers, supplementing the work of state health department regulators who handle more serious violations. It currently has 5 full-time employees and a part-time legal counsel. It works with 15 regional nonprofits that collectively employ about 40 full-time and 25 part-time paid staff and oversee about 250 trained volunteers. Advocates are calling for a $15 million investment in the Ombudsman program, which will enable the program to add 235 full-time staff members, enough to allow weekly visits at every facility in the state. According to Bill Ferris, the legislative representative AARP New York, the program is failing at no fault of the ombudsman themselves. These are 15 not-for-profits across the state trying to do the best they can with scarce resources from the state. This is an obligation for the state to fund this program so it can do its job. This is a program that is the eyes and ears for the fearless people in New York. And so apparently they are severely understaffed and underfunded. And this is something to add to that piece of the puzzle when we talked about those cases that were happening in New York. Part of this can explain why some of this is happening, because that oversight is not there. And I think that's a shame. And that's a very unique model that they would rely on paid volunteers. I don't know if any other states do that, rely on paid volunteers. I don't know. If you know, let me know in the comments. That'd be great to know. All right. Okay, so let's talk about this. This is a hospital case. This is about, I don't know how to feel about this, but you let me know in the comments. You be the judge. So this is Senator wants answers about a for-profit Iowa hospital where a nurse assaulted unconscious female patients. Just, yeah, gross. Okay, so I just want to say, first of all, there's a trigger warning here. Okay. It says a powerful Senate Republican is demanding answers from a private equity-backed hospital in southeast Iowa amid revelations that a male nurse practitioner at the facility sexually assaulted 9 female patients there in 2021 and 2022. The facility Tunuma Regional Health Center is part of LifePoint Health Incorporated, a hospital system headquartered in Brentwood, Tennessee, and owned by Apollo Global Management, the huge private equity firm in New York, co-founded by Leon Black. The incidents at the Tunuma facility came to light late last year after the overdose death in the hospital of Devin Carriccio, 27, a certified nurse practitioner who is a contract employee at the hospital. After he died on the job, this is horrible. The Ottawa police assessed his cell phone, finding photos and video evidence that he assaulted the patients, according to the police department investigator. So, again, this is very egregious. It looks like the senator sent a letter to the hospital. He says one of the Grassley's questions was whether Apollo contractually shields itself from liability for activities that occur at its hospitals it invests in, operates, or manages. He also asked Apollo to detail, quote, its expertise regarding rural or non-urban hospitals. So I just wanted to bring that out, that this is coming up. A spokesperson for Apollo said, quote, our funds are investors in LifePoint, and we're responding to the questions from Senator Grassley's office. Just a point of information, the Tunuma Regional LifePoint has more than 60 acute care hospitals in 17 states, including Arizona, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. And of course, as we know, and we've talked about this before, rural hospitals have been struggling with financial pressures. Part of it, they got money by during the pandemic, but a lot of rural hospitals are really struggling to keep up with the demand. And some of them, as we've reported previously, were shutting down. So according to Kara Klaus, the spokeswoman for Tunuma Regional Health Center, it says the heinous acts of this former contractor clearly violate our policies and values, and our hearts are with those affected by his misconduct. Tunuma Regional continues to cooperate with law enforcement, and we've adopted a number of reforms to further strengthen our controls and security to safeguard those we serve and prevent sorry about that, and prevent rogue bad actors. I usually put my phone in my drawer just so this does not happen. And I forgot to do that today. All right. So again, I'm not going to go further in this story. It's just horrible. And then it's just sad all around. But I wanted to bring this out is because we're seeing more and more issues with, and it's not to bash this hospital because again, I don't know what they had, but we're seeing more and more issues of things coming up in healthcare that's causing legislators to take notice. And that's why I wanted to bring that out. So let's move on from that because that's just horrible. All right, let's talk about it. I put a little bit of mention of this in our blog today. But again, this is coming out of New York, and this is about I'm pretty sure you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, there's a TikTok video out there about a nursing home employee, presumably a nurse, who was falling asleep on the job, standing at the med cart. According to this, the New York State Department of Health has launched an investigation after a video went viral of an Auburn nursing home employee. And it's been viewed more than 1 million times and shared across several platforms of people on Facebook. The video was posted by another Auburn Rehabilitation Nursing Center employee, Alexis McNeil, who shared it with News Channel 9. Of course, the facility is aware of the video and they are doing an internal investigation. But in addition, the New York Health Department has stepped in to investigate the matter. The State Department encourages anyone who has a complaint or concern about nursing homes to contact their centralized complaint intake unit. Now, I'm bringing this up because this was a video, and I happened to see the video. Someone was posted online, and I came across it. And this employee, and it seemed like she was standing up, sleeping and nodding, almost falling over. Now, I don't know what was happening. Was she diabetic and her blood sugar was low? Did she have narcolepsy? Um, some people suggested, and I'm not saying it's true, that maybe she was using substances. I don't know, but that's the point. I don't know. And my question is, why did this person share this on social media as opposed to help her coworker out, wake her up, ask her, can she give her a hand? Was it because she wanted to show that their working conditions were so terrible that this happens? I'm not sure why she shared this. And I don't know why she shared this with the media instead of sharing it with her employer. So I want us to take a step back and think about what we're doing to each other in healthcare, and how sometimes we post these videos and they aren't for the betterment of the patients or the residents. It's from some entertainment value. I'm just going to say, be very careful where you post. And yes, she should not be sleeping on the job. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that she should be sleeping on the job. But we don't know what happened. And I hate to rush to judgment on this. And that's the point I was making online. And I'll continue to make that point until we know what happens. Let's not rush to judgment. This nurse might have been ill. Maybe she had the flu. We don't know. And so we need to find out what's happening. And maybe she just worked her second double in a row. I mean, that certainly happened to me. That's happened to several nurses that I know of. So we need to know what's happening. Let's not pick on her. Okay. So last of the last two of what I call the downer stories, right? I mean, the stories that aren't necessarily negative, but I like to do the good feel good stuff at the end anyway. But I just wanted to raise this as something that I didn't hear about this. But I certainly think that because they're next door, we need to hear about this. And it says deadly fast spreading fungal infection reaches Ohio hospital nursing home patients. This is important to know because according to this chart from the CDC, presumably, this is Candida auris. And there are clinical cases that they evaluated through December 31st of 2022. In the state of Indiana, according to this, we had 11 to 50 cases. In Ohio, it looks like 11 to 50. Excuse me, I take that back. More like 51 to 100 cases. I apologize. In Indiana and Ohio, and then in Kentucky, it was 11 to 50 cases, according to the colored chart. So let's get on to the story coming out of Cleveland, Ohio, in the Cleveland.com. It says Candida auris, a drug-resistant fungal infection that spreads easily in hospitals and nursing homes and can lead to death, is on the rise in Ohio. Cases of Candida auris tripled from 2019 to 2021, and treatment-resistant cases also are rising. The CDC, through the end of 2022, reported 79 cases in Ohio, also C. auris. But since then, more recent data from the Ohio Department of Health shows a sharp increase with 416 cases through mid-March. And so we're seeing that rise. And so this is something that we might want to be looking at in facilities because, infection control is a very big thing right now through COVID and everything. So you have to worry about all these other infections. So it says, and I just want to go through a little bit of this. It says it can linger on surfaces, spread through touch, and is difficult to treat and detect. The U.S. Centers for Disease recently rated Candida auris as an urgent threat, the agency's highest level of concern. State health officials in Ohio recommend that people wash their hands frequently when visiting loved ones in a healthcare facility, postponing visiting if they're sick, and ask healthcare providers to perform hand hygiene when they come into the room. It mainly impacts persons with other medical conditions, particularly those who have frequent hospital stays or live in nursing homes. The fungus can be contracted through contact with contaminated surfaces or medical equipment or spread person to person. It can live on surfaces for up to 2 weeks. There is a 30% to 60% mortality rate, although many of those infected had comorbidities or other illnesses that increased their risk of death, according to federal health officials. So I wanted to let you know that this is on the rise. We'll certainly be watching for this in Indiana as well. But I found this quite fascinating that we've got something else coming on the horizon that I had not heard of, and I'm like, I wanted to share it here so you would hear it. You can certainly go to the CDC website and get more information from this as well, or go to Columbus.com to get this information. Okay, all right. Okay, this is another story. And let's see. Yeah, I'm checking my time here. This is says KARE 11 investigates board delays, allowing potentially dangerous nurses to practice. A Publica and KARE 11 investigation finds that the state nursing board drags its feet investigating complaints against nurses accused of serious misconduct. According to this story, it's been 5 years since a particular nurse said she witnessed what felt like murder to her. Hardell Sherrill's agonizing death in the Beltrami County Jail, where guards and medical staff refused his pleas for medical help. Lundblad, a nurse practitioner, was one of the few who tried to help Sherrill when she worked in the jail for Beltrami's medical provider, MEND Correctional Care. She resigned shortly after Sherrill's death, then blew the whistle. She filed complaints in 2018 with the state and medical board against Dr. Todd Leonard and with the Minnesota Board of Nursing against their nursing director, Michelle Scroach, who was directly in charge of Sherrill's care in the last 2 days of his life. Leonard, who never saw Sherrill but monitored his condition via telephone, had his medical license indefinitely suspended in early 2022. An administrative law judge in Leonard's case also called for the Board of Nursing to investigate Schwartz's dereliction of duty and shocking indifference. The nurse failed to provide care to Sherrill or even check his vital signs as he lay nearly lifeless on the floor of his cell wearing adult diapers soaked in his own urine, the judge found. When KARE 11 first interviewed her in 2021, Lundblad was surprised that the nursing board hadn't taken action or shrunk. It's hard for me to understand when you can look at the documentation, the video footage, and see what happened, and for there to be no action. 2 years later, and a year after the judge called for further investigation, there's still been no action. The nursing board website shows Sherrock has an active license with no disciplinary actions listed. So this is where the problem becomes, because if the nursing boards don't take action in cases like that, then that potentially opens up for more patients to be harmed. So they said Schrock's case is not unusual. A KARE 11 investigation in 2020 detailed how, despite multiple complaints, the board failed to stop a nurse from repeatedly stealing medication from patients, leaving an elderly woman in excruciating pain. At the time, the records showed that the board rarely used its power to temporarily suspend nurses who face allegations of serious and dangerous misconduct. There was only one suspension per year in 2018 and 2019. Now, a new investigation by the nonprofit newsroom ProPublica documents how suspensions are still rare and nursing board investigations continue to drag on for months or even years. Despite a state law that requires complaints to be resolved within a year, the percentage of cases that go beyond that mark has soared from fewer than 5% in 2016 to 30% now. So there's more to this particular case. I find it interesting that further on, when they talked about the case, it says state law requires the board to notify complainants about the status of the investigation every 120 days. Yet Lundblad tells KARE 11 it's been nearly 2 years since the board last notified her that the case was still being investigated. Sherrill's mother, Dale Shea Perry, also wonders what has taken so long for the board to take action. So According to this, it says a Star Tribune investigation in 2013 on the nursing board sparked a legislative audit, which found that the board acted too slowly when public safety was at risk. Prompted by the scrutiny, the legislature changed state law to give the board more power to suspend nurses, including temporarily removing them from practice while it investigates cases believed to pose an immediate risk to patients. The board also began to dispose of complaints more quickly, but that progress was short-lived, records show. KARE 11's investigation in 2020 highlighted multiple complaints involving nurse La Vang, accusing him of repeatedly stealing narcotics from patients in 2017 and 2018, including one allegation validated by the state health department. Because the board didn't suspend his license, Vang was able to move from job to job at Minneapolis area health agencies, allegedly stealing medications from multiple patients. One of them was Lavon Bertram, who had powerful pain pills prescribed to her following a surgery. Vang would later tell police that he stole Bertram's pills and replaced them with over-the-counter Tylenol, leaving her in agony. Acting on a tip from the family, police pulled Vang over and found pills and empty prescription bottles belonging to Borsham in his car. It wasn't until after his arrest that the nursing board got Vang to sign an agreement to cease practicing. He later pleaded guilty in federal court to obtaining controlled substances by fraud and was sentenced to 18 months in prison. The board staff were ultimately responsible for investigating and suspending Vang. Kimberly Miller was tabbed as the Board of Nursing's executive director in August of 2021. She did not respond to a request for an on-camera interview with KARE 11. Not only are many cases taking longer to investigate, records show that the state has been using its temporary suspension authority less often. The board exercised its authority 55 times from 2014 to 2017, according to state data. Since 2018, however, records show that the board has only issued 9 temporary suspensions. So there is a lot of information here by ProPublica, and they have the full investigation that you can certainly get on the link to this article. And if you're interested in that, I'll be happy to post this link for you. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. And these are issues that we need to know about in nursing and healthcare. All right, let's move on to this last story. And this is kind of a continuation of a story we've been following about this phenomenon of hospitals requiring nurses to pay if they leave their contract. So it says, indentured servitude, nurses hit with hefty debt when trying to leave hospitals. This is in Washington. It says, when Jackie Rum quit her nursing job at Los Robles Regional Medical Center last fall over the heavy workload and low staffing levels, it came with a high price from her employer. The payment was related to a contract Rum was required to sign when she took the job at Thousand Oaks, California hospital-owned HCA Healthcare, the nation's largest for-profit hospital chain. Under the agreement, which is standard for entry-level nurses working at HCA hospitals and becoming increasingly standard for other health systems, Rum agreed to pay back the hospital for training if she quit or was fired before her 2-year contract expired. Despite the agreement, Rum said she quit after 13 months because of the strain, citing staffing that was so thin she was often unable to take even a 30-minute break during her 12-hour shift. As a result of leaving, she has received 7 letters since October from a collection agency working for HCA demanding payment for the remaining $2,000 in training costs the hospital says she owes and threatening to charge her interest and legal fees. She says, we're being preyed on by someone in power. We're desperate for a job. We just got out of school. We don't know any better. I didn't even have time to take a lunch break. My hair was falling out. The level of stress just wasn't sustainable. While Rum said she did receive about 10 weeks of training and mentorship, it fell short of what she expected given the $4,000 value the hospital placed on it. Some of the in-person classes covered material she had already gone over in nursing school or that wasn't really relevant to her specialty, and she had limited time to spend shadowing a more experienced nurse. The practice of requiring payment for training programs aimed at recent nursing school graduates has become increasingly common in recent years, with some hospitals requiring nurses to pay back as much as $15,000 if they quit or are fired before their contract is up. Hospitals say that the repayment requirement is necessary to help them recoup the investment they make in training recent nursing school graduates and to incentivize them to stay amid the tight labor market. But some nurses say the system has left them feeling trapped in jobs and afraid to speak out about unsafe working conditions for fear of being fired and having to face thousands of dollars in debt. According to the National Nurses United labor group, Bren O'Neill, these training programs do not provide nurses with any sort of new qualifications. Rather, employers are passing on to nurses the cost of basic on the job training that was required for any RN position at any hospital, and then they're using these contracts to lock nurses into their jobs or risk this devastating financial penalty. Having that debt hanging over them means that nurses have a harder time advocating for safe conditions for themselves and their patients. HCA said in a statement that its programs were developed by nurse educators as, quote, an important investment in our colleagues and demonstrate our commitment to advancing the nursing profession. The hospital system, which has 184 hospitals, said the program also allows nurses to receive training across a wide range of specialties such as oncology, surgical services, critical care, and pediatrics. It also gives nurses the option to transfer to its other facilities. So the practice has caught the attention of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which in September began investigating forms of debt created by employers for their employees through training programs. The agency is in the process of reviewing the training repayment programs as a type of debt product being offered to workers similar to a student loan and assessing whether the agency should take additional oversight actions. California passed a law in 2020 that would prevent hospitals from charging employees for job related training required by the employer that isn't related to getting state mandated license or certification. So HCA has continued to send these letters to former nurses there, including RUM, seeking to collect payment for their training costs, according to collection letters shared with NBC News. Harris said that the practice appears to be in violation of the California law. So that's something that's coming out now. We've got new nurses coming out and being saddled with these contracts, almost similar to what we saw with the nurses that they bring in from overseas and they have to stay and work there, or risk losing their visas, risk having to pay back the money to get them there. So there's a lot that goes on to this. So this kind of gives us a peek into the healthcare system and how it works. And that's why I bring these stories up. All right, so let's get on to the good stuff. I always like to get into the good stuff. And here's one. This is quite interesting. And it says the U.S. nursing education market is forecast to grow in 2022 to 27, accelerating at 21%. So this is coming from Yahoo News. You can certainly get this. And it says, our report on the nursing education market in the U.S. provides a holistic analysis, market size and forecast, trends and growth, drivers and challenges, as well as vendor analysis covering around 25 vendors. The report offers an up-to-date analysis regarding the current market scenario, the latest trends and drivers, and the overall market environment. So the nursing education is segmented in the U.S. as follows: by type, graduate courses, postgraduate; by end user, hospitals, home healthcare services. The study identifies the increasing use of AR/VR in nursing education as one of the prime reasons driving the nursing education market growth during the next few years. Also, increasing popularity of continuing education programs and rising adoption of alternative therapies will lead to sizable demand in the market. So what they are seeing is that nursing education market is growing. So this is a study that was done. I just wanted to get you to that. So this is where I like to look at this, is because this might be a good time if you're thinking of starting a business, maybe going into nursing education. You can get the full report from Yahoo News. But I want to share that. And then let's go on because we're running short of time. This also is from Yahoo News, and I wanted to say congratulations to these nurses for making a difference. The top 10 finalist nurses for the Astor Guardians Award. worth over $250,000. So it says selected from over 52,000 nurses across 202 countries. Out of these 10 finalists, one nurse could win the grand prize title of $250,000 in London on May 12, 2023, International Nurses Day. The 10 finalists will undergo a public voting process starting from next week, followed by final evaluation by the grand jury. So the Astor Guardians Global Nursing Award, an award instituted to recognize inspirational work done by nurses from around the world, has announced its top 10 finalists from across the world. There are Kathy Cribben Pierce from the UAE, Christine Maui Sami from Kenya, Gloria Sabalo from Panama, Jency Jerry from Ireland, Lillian UC New Me from Singapore, Margaret Helen Shepherd from England, Michael Joseph Dino from the Philippines, and Shanti, let's see if I can get this bigger so I can see it. Sorry about that. Shanti Teresa Lakra from India. So I want to say congratulations to these top 10 finalists. This is wonderful. This just a little bit about some of these nurses. Yeah, they're doing some things, and so congratulations on that and winning those, possibly winning the big prize, but and being a finalist, congratulations. So out of the nurses in the world, these are the top 10 according to this. So congratulations, those are nurses making a difference. And yeah, and so I think that'll end our news segment for today. We've got a couple other stories, but we just have run out of time, and so that'll end our news segment for today. I want to get to our quick announcements. So, really quick, on our announcements we have coming up this month. So I will make sure that I pin those in the post after we get done with this. But coming up, we have this Friday, just so that you know, we are closed. It is Good Friday, so we will not be open for Good Friday. And I always like to make sure to know that. So coming up this Tuesday, we will be having the Matilda Barber Nursing Scholarship event sponsored by the Nurse Shark Academy and IB Tech. And this will be at Love Events starting at 6 o'clock p.m. So that will be this coming Tuesday. We'll be having that event as well. On Saturday, April the 15th, we do have a BLS renewal class. So those of you who may need your CPR training and need your renewal, Saturday is a great time to get it done. So that's at 3 p.m. You can register at the American Heart Association website for that. And on Wednesday, April the 19th, we will have an encore of our Jumpstart Business program. So if you want to jump in, get started with your nurse-owned business, please go to our website, the Nurse Shark Academy .biz, and sign up and register for our Jumpstart Business program. The cost is $37. You can get in. We're going to get you started and get you launched and get you ready for your nurse-owned business. So that's a great opportunity for you. If you're ready to take massive action, this is the class for you. So go ahead and get registered and get started for that. You want to make sure I get all the good stuff. And then on Tuesday, April the 25th, ladies will be having our rest and renewal a busy businesswoman spring event. Just come in. Tickets are available on Eventbrite. You can come in and join us. We're going to have food, fellowship, and fun. And we're going to talk about making time your friend. And so we're going to be talking about that and just getting a chance to relax. So our rest and renewal, you need your ticket. You get your ticket at Eventbrite or sign up for that there. That's where it is. It's also on our Facebook page, but you have to still get a ticket. You can't just say you're coming on the Facebook page. Make sure you get a ticket from Eventbrite. The link is there on Facebook. All right. And then on Wednesday, the 26th, we have our BLS CPR class from 9 to 12. For those of you who need the class and you've not taken it before, or maybe you are renewing, but you need to refresh and it's been a while, we have that available. Our Anderson Alliance is having a networking event as well on the 26th. And we do have another Anderson Alliance, Alignable Alliance that will be there. And that will be on... that will be on... well, I know we've got the 26th. I'll have to find the other one. I apologize. I didn't have everything ready. I'm just looking at the calendar real quick. And then we also have coming up we will be closed on the 27th and 28th and the 29th as we will be attending the American Association of Legal Nurse Consultants Convention Conference. So you can find us there. If you want to say hello to us there, you can find us at that conference if you'd like to go. So I look forward to seeing you all again. This is our segment. It is now 6 o'clock, so we need to go. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, share, and comment on our videos. Watch us on our podcast. You can find that on Podbean or other places where you get your podcasts, or you can go to our website, thenursetruckacademy.biz, and go to our podcast page. Also, check out our new blog post from today. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.